Hi guys, thanks a lot for joining us again this week for ATN Talk. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you can do it either on Blab. You can join us at blab.im/ATW networking, where the show is scheduled, or you can use the hashtag over on Twitter to get joined in the conversation over there. So it's ATN Talk if you want to communicate and get involved there. We'll be pinging bits and pieces out, watching that hashtag as the conversation goes around that. Also, whenever anyone tweets from Blab to Twitter, the hashtag is included there, so it will give you a link to bring you straight into the broadcast if you're over on Twitter and you've seen this. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, the link will be really easy for you. It will be just down below, same as if you're on the blog. So every week, Dawn and myself, the lovely Dawn Carter, joins me here on Blab to have a conversation around community, all aspects of community. So building communities, discussing the digital water cooler, which is one of Dawn's favorite phrases, which I absolutely love, and just general things around how you can build a community, build a brand and things online. So it's quite an intensive half-hour, 45-minute show where we answer questions and we get people involved, and it's an opportunity for people to ask if they're looking to build communities, how they can do that, and the tools and resources for doing that. So while we're talking community and while I'm updating the topic, because I forgot to do it this week, Dawn, do you want to just tell us about your week and how your community is doing?
Yes. Well, welcome everyone. As Tristan mentioned, my name is Dawn Carter. I'm at dcart on all the socials, Twitter, Periscope. Just trying out Snapchat, just getting there, but oh my gosh, the interface is killing me. But one of the things that I wanted to do with Tristan is I'm the marketing director for TWUBS, TWUBS.com, and we've been in the Twitter chat and tweet to screen business for about 7 years. So wanted to be able to bring some of that experience that I've seen a lot of folks who have successfully done Twitter chats. And done it well. I mean, hey, anytime you can throw an event and have it run for 2 or 3 years, which is what a lot of these, not necessarily just Twitter chats, we're talking about community in general, but I've seen community grow up around these. So I think it's pretty neat. Oh, well, thank you, Lisa. That's I am Ms. Word. Thank you, Elisa, for saying that. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Talking around the Snapchat thing, so that's kind of the key one right now, I guess, is everyone's talking about Snapchat. It's the most opened app on smartphones. So much to a point that I'm actually going to shamelessly drop a link here on Blab. We're actually launching a Snapchat and Periscope training course here in Sydney, which we're also going to make available online. And there's a pre-registration form there. The date isn't set yet. It's just for anyone who's pre-registered for that through the blog will actually get a special deal ahead of anyone else hearing about the official dates. So we're going to do live trainings where there'll be some general bits. So it's a live networking with lunch as well. So that's what more community do you get than sitting down and eating lunch with a great group of people and doing some learning at the same time. So it's like a 3-hour delve in. So one is fairly general, and then there'll be one that's so we're actually going to be integrating Twitter as well into those other ones, because obviously they're, as I always say, glue of the internet. Twitter's that place that pulls everything together, and so you need to understand how that integrates into your Periscope and into your Snapchat kind of story. It's kind of a place you can send people. So yeah, there's a whole training course going on there. So I know that, Dawn, you were saying, wow, there's all the interface and getting my head around it. For it's obviously designed for a young audience, and how it's designed as an interface and to make you try things and challenge you to do those things. But also there's people in the community, very much like when you get on Blab and when you get onto Periscope, the community is there and the community will support you. So ask the questions. I'm regularly going backwards and forwards, and I will just show you, I had no messages when we went live, and now Chocolate Johnny and Blake Croft from the States both messaging me now while I'm live on the show.
Of course.
So those that constant communication, and one beautiful thing about Snapchat as a build is that it's direct communication. So you can broadcast one-to-one or one-to-many in your stories, and And in the one-to-one format, you can do it as text, videos, or pictures, and then you can annotate the pictures. So anyone who's already following my Snapchat will have seen a smiley pickle in my story today. As I was getting snacks from the fridge, I decided to turn my pickle into a smiley face. So there's a whole fun element to it, but I'm actually using it to train some people in other elements of their business. I reached out to the community that I've got following my daily stories, which tends to be me opening and closing doors, walking to places, some business tips and advice, and a lot of food, because I'm a chef by trade. So there's that community already built. But then I today snapped out and said, hey, snap me and tell me what the social platform is that you're struggling with. And then people snap me and I can snap backwards and forwards. So I've been giving tips, and it means that they have to be really punchy and on the point, very much like the 140 characters of Twitter. Tell that story really quick, concise, and precise. So it's good from that aspect, in the fact that people can reach out directly to you. I've actually been snapping backwards and forwards with one of the top periscopers through Snapchat, which has been awesome. Just kind of finding out what they're up to and stuff. And it gives me that exclusive of what's going on and what's coming next, which is really cool as well. So I know we discussed the digital water cooler. It's kind of digital water cooler on steroids, I think.
It really is. And I just have to, as you were describing your course that's coming up, and it was just an aside that you had, but I think I need to just bring that point out, is that you said there's a training, but there's a lunch around it as well. And you know how you mentioned that there is an aspect of your snaps that will always include food because you were a chef by training. And I think that's a great principle in terms of community building that a lot of brands and even a lot of corporate training experiences, the two things that are typically left out of learning experiences are the two things you've just mentioned: food and fun. It's like how simple, you know, how much easier, how much less painful it is to learn something when you are able to have that camaraderie around a table, talk about things, you know, get some of that chit chat, you know, going with other folks, and then also having that fun element. I think we've kind of lost that, at least within the corporate world, a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just opened those two snaps whilst we've been live, because it's a very instant do it right now kind of platform. And Blake was actually thanking me for referring people from my Snapchat to his, so building his community. And Johnny was actually heckling me a little bit. That's Johnny and I have this banter thing, is how much banter can you throw backwards and forwards before, you know, you upset the other person. It's all in good fun, and we know that, you know, it's good humor between the two of us. So it's really awesome to have that. And like you say, that's that whole element of fun that people are not necessarily engaging in when they're doing their community or their training exercises and things. So it's something that's really important to keep integrated into all of those things. So it's definitely important to community, fun, food, and just for us, our whole business is built around AllThingsNetworking.com is our brand. It's all around the networking. Everything that we do is, if I can teach you something, I don't want it to stop there. I want you to help somebody else. That's the reason that I'm empowering you with the knowledge to do it, is so that you can go and you can empower somebody else, and you can teach them, so that gets bigger and wider and spreads that information further. It's not about just me teaching one person. It's about getting that knowledge further and further afield.
I love that. And I think that the successful communities that grow have that aspect of equipping. I mean, exactly what you said. So there are some folks that will build a community in order to take, or they have a specific, you know, this is the, I mean, it seems a little, I don't say mercenary, but I mean, you will build that community in order to see what you can suck out of it. And that's completely the wrong, or, you know, that's the wrong approach to it, as opposed to how can I equip? And I mean, think about the gratitude you're instilling on all the people that you are equipping, Tristan, you know, with the expertise that you're bringing. You know, you are instilling this sense of gratitude, and, you know, how can I give back to this community as well?
Yeah. So I'm going to ping a few questions up on the side, so anyone who's in live, and then we'll also answer them as well. We can ping them up on the screen so that we can answer those. So the first one is, what's your favorite community that you're part of and why? So I'm gonna let you answer first on this.
Of course, because you thought about it already. So, okay, so I think it's important at the very, very beginning to kind of differentiate between terms. And there's a sense of a network, which is, people you're affiliated with. And I think with community, there is a sense of a joint ownership. There's a little bit more than, hey, we're just, we're connected on LinkedIn or something like that. That's a network. Yeah. And I think community is going to have some kind of aspect either of commitment or that generosity. I think one of the communities that I'm a part of right now is the mentoring community within. It actually started at a conference, and we've all kept in touch through a Facebook group. And there is that mutuality of opportunities or ways that I can equip them and giving back to them, and that they in turn give back to me. And it's this really, really splendid and energizing space to be in. There's a sense of, not a sense of competition. It's, hey, can I celebrate the wins that you have? Here, let me celebrate the wins. If there are, I don't know what you would call it. It's like social, what's the word? You know what the word, when you're giving somebody, you're retweeting for them, and you're not your social credibility, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you're trying to say. And it's really important in networks and communities to celebrate the wins of everyone in the community. And it kind of, you get that law of reciprocation that everyone is celebrating everybody else. And so as a whole, the whole community gets raised up. And actually that's part of the whole concept behind the Scope Oz project, which is a social experiment we're carrying out here in Australia. So people are now including Scope Oz into their broadcasts. So even if they're not including their location services are turned off, you can still find them as being identify them as being in Australia. But there's a core group of people who are very established Periscope users who kind of know all the etiquette, and they know how to do it and how to drive engagement and things like that. And then their job is to also train and educate other people. So it's to raise the standard of everyone, so that Australia, suddenly everyone goes, hey, why is every broadcast that comes out of Australia really good? And it's because that core group, as people get to that standard and consistently get to that standard, they then get brought into, like, I hate to use the phrase, but like into the fold kind of thing, so that core group gets bigger and bigger. And as they get bigger, they bring more people in. So it starts with 10, and then it goes 10, 11, 12, and you get to 15, and then you might go 17, 19, 25. So it starts to expand at an exponential rate as you find those people. But in order to do it, there has to be a bar, like a standard, so that people, so that you're helping the people, and then their engagement and involvement, they don't have to do anything other than to reach out within that community. And that's the key element behind it. So if anyone was interested in reading a little bit about that, I'll ping the website on the side there. It's scopeoz.com. And there's a blog post that basically explains it's a social experiment. We're putting it out there and seeing what happens. And we had like 200 tweets within the first 24 hours when it went live. And it's still active now. And there's actually been, I think it's 8 pages of documentation that's been written behind how it works and why it will work, to then be passed out to everyone. Because once they understand it, it becomes a bigger thing as well. It's a real clarity about how everything works. And there's a lot of people lifting other people up and sharing each other's content and things like that is the reason that it will work. But again, it's a social experiment. So it's down to the people involved to get involved and make that happen. So, my favorite community. Oh, this is a tough one. I'm quite lucky in the fact that I literally, when I meet people at networking meetings, the conversation goes like this. Do you have a business card? No. Why do I need a business card? I'm on every social network. You choose one and we'll connect, which does mean that I have a whole lot of different communities. There are people that I'm connected across all platforms with, and there are some people that I'm only connected in certain places with. Like there's some people that are I only connected with maybe through LinkedIn, and it's a very professional capacity, that relationship. But that's not to say, we don't have fun and stuff when we meet up, but it's always very defined how we communicate. And sometimes from the other side, the people are overwhelmed by, I get messages on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, and I want to just have one place that I go to see that. So using the specific channel for me, it makes sense. If you want to work with me or you want to build a relationship, or even just, engage with me, then let's connect. If I give you a business card, chances are, probably 90% of people lose them or put them in a drawer or, forget about them. And then you find them later and think, who was that? So another tip for people who are connecting at networking meetings. So I'll find someone, I'll say, you choose the platform. I'll hand them my phone and go, find yourself, because they're going to find it much quicker and identify their picture. And then they connect with themselves. So they now know that it's been sent. And here's the killer tip is screenshot your phone at that point. When they hand it back, screenshot it. Because at the end of the day, when you've met 100 people, how are you going to necessarily remember all the faces if they're all new faces in a networking meeting? It allows you at the end of the day, within the platforms, there's no way to go back and go, who did I connect with today? Whereas you can now go, if you've screenshotted it, you can go to your camera roll and all the faces are there with their names and contact details. So especially if you've gone to like their about section and you can have that on screen, screenshot, now you have everything in one place. No, Roxanne, I haven't written a book, but I'm halfway through writing a book about how to build an amazing team. It's actually, provided it doesn't change, the title is They Told Me I Couldn't, So We Did, Understanding the Power of Your Team. And it's about how I built my own brand up using 40, 18 to 24-year-olds, which was an awesome story. I won't give too much away or the book will be not very interesting. My favorite community, I still can't beat the feeling of meeting people in real life. But I guess the next stage for me is live streaming, and I couldn't identify it down to one platform. So I'm going to say live streaming as a whole is my community, because that's where I connect. Mm-hmm. And with that, I'm broadly going to include Snapchat into that, because I use Snapchat in a very probably different way, in the fact that I'm literally having constant communication. Blake and I talk for like 2 hours straight with video messages backwards and forwards, because it's convenient that he can send it and I can be doing what I'm doing and then respond when it suits. Absolutely. My live streaming community is definitely the one for me. So I would say that's the killer one. So the second one, I guess, kind of follows on from what I was saying. What ways do you communicate with that community? Like with all the different communities and things you're in, what's the best ways for you? How do you find the best ways to communicate with your communities?
I would, for me, it almost always comes back to Twitter. And the only reason is that one has to have a Twitter account to sign into Blab, or your periscopes are pushed out to Twitter. So for me, typically Twitter will be the backbone. It just depends though, because if a community doesn't live on Twitter, there's some people that just have that app open all the time. For instance, this group that I was mentioning, this mentoring, community, they're all Facebook users. That hardly any of them are Twitter users. So I really have to go to, when I want to communicate with them, I will go ahead and post something to the private Facebook group. But I'm not shy about introducing them or bringing them over into another platform if I think it makes sense. So for instance, we got done with the conference. There were phenomenal presenters, and I would love to be able to showcase them or help them get their message, their story out. So why not introduce them to the technology? And so I've introduced them to quite a few of them into Blab, just whether it's private one-on-ones or just, hey, here's a link to something I'm doing. You might be peripherally interested in the topic, but just see the platform. So it really depends.
Yeah, and that's it. I think it's important to get people to use meeting them where they are within a space that they're comfortable in within a community is really, really important, because you don't want to push people out of their comfort zone when you're trying to build that relationship. Once you've got that relationship existing, then it's cool to say, hey, do you want to test out a peer in, or do you want to come over to Blab, or do you want to go, hey, how about I'm going to do a live scope, jump in there and have a conversation with me, because you're already using Twitter. So pushing people to try new things as well. It's about educating, and this is the core of our business. Again, it is about educating and inspiring, because one without the other is useless. If I inspire you, but I don't teach you how to do it, chances are you won't do it. If I educate you on what to do, but I don't inspire you to take action, it's unlikely you'll do it. So the two go hand in hand.
It's like a 1-2 punch.
It's kind of a combo that you have to get, bring together neatly. So I think that's a really important thing. So going to fire up. We've got another one here. So question 3 is, what tools do you use to manage staying engaged in your community and not being overwhelmed? Because that's the one key thing that most people struggle with, is there's this big social media overwhelm in the fact that there's all these platforms, and I'm getting Facebook, and I'm looking at Facebook, and then I'm getting Facebook Messenger, and then I've got like pop-up push notifications from other things, and Twitter and Periscope, and someone just went live, and now I'm Blab, all those notifications. What do you do to stay engaged to a level that you feel like you're still engaged and connected in the community without it becoming this mammoth beast that you have to deal with?
Yeah, great question. And I'm telling you that I hear that question all the time, that, you know, I'm a professional, or I have to actually do other work. How on earth are you staying in touch with those folks? So I'll just give you my 2 main ways. One is this little guy. It's a timer. It's my egg timer. And it happens to be an owl, which just cracks me up because the Blab character is an owl. But setting that sucker to a 25-minute window and saying, okay, this is my Twitter engagement time, or this is my Facebook update, you know, this is my social media time, and then having that set, you know, this is my, you know, morning check-in or my afternoon, depending on what the day, you know, holds. But that really, if I don't kind of put it into a compartment, it will be overwhelming. I do a lot of screen shares, like you said, taking, you know, memorializing an event or a particularly good blab or a comment or a statement someone made within one of the conversations that I was listening to, whether it's a Twitter chat or a blab or something I learned in a Periscope, and then, you know, creating those little shareable nuggets. I mean, that's another thing. I won't say that's a tool necessarily, but that's more of a way that gives me focus. It doesn't make me overwhelmed when I go in with a specific purpose. I'm here to learn, and I'm here to lift up. So if I learn a nugget, and I don't have to do it for everyone who was there, but if there was one key takeaway that really struck me, chances are it might have struck someone else. So again, that's a way to manage it down and really give myself permission to go, I don't have to be the, you know, Ms. Helpful for everybody. You know, it's okay. Yeah.
And I think that within a community, it's really important to have, like, to get people who are good at different things. A good community will have people who have a wide variety of skills that all complement each other, because that also stops you from having that massive overwhelm in, I'm always the person that everyone goes to for this.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But they come to me for everything. So you don't want that overwhelm. You want people who have different skills that all complement each other. And I think that's really important. For me, my tools for engagement, I'm very much live streaming world. So Snapchat, I'm native in the app. Everything I do through Periscope, I then follow up. So I go back to Catch, and then I also use fullscope.tv as my tools, because the example this morning when Twitter wasn't working, Twitter went down for an hour today, which I've blogged about, which when I was live on Periscope from the beach first thing this morning, I had 3 attempts, all of which failed to push to Twitter, and then I found out when I got home, Twitter was offline, which was why. Not for everyone, just on certain servers. But the whole thing with that was I didn't have any comments, I didn't have any viewers. But when I got back to my analytics afterwards, it showed me all the comments, all the hearts, everyone who'd engaged, which allowed me later to then reach out to them and say, really sorry. And in fact, I had a really influential Periscoper in my broadcast this morning and was like, cool. So now I look like I was rude because I couldn't engage. I had in the broadcast said and kept them informed that there's problems and I can't see any comments. So I don't know if anyone's doing the comments. But obviously I hope that they were in there then. So yeah, I use those for the live streaming side, and I always follow up with Twitter, back to Twitter, the glue of the internet, where tweets, it's very quick, it's very direct, it's like you can personalize it, reach out with Twitter videos and things like that, which is amazing. And like now, where people are adding me, because if they come to my Twitter, pretty much every 3 hours there's something about Snapchat and my Snapchat code. So that means actually I engage with people and I send them a quick snap. Today, some people from a Periscope added me on Snapchat, and as soon as they added, or when they filled in the form saying they wanted to learn Snapchat, everyone who had a Snapchat handle has had a private message from me on Snapchat to thank them for filling in the form. Massive level of engagement, takes like like it can't take me longer than 15 seconds to do it, because Snapchat won't allow that. So I can reach out and do that, make that personal connection in the same way you do with Twitter video, so those are the things. And Twitter, obviously I use various different tools. So I'm watching, I'm tracking hashtags, and I actually have a whole load of if this then that recipes. So for people who aren't familiar, it's ifttt.com. That basically, the tweets that go out are logged. The tweets that are coming in from certain people, I can log within certain areas. Like when I'm working on a topic, I'll have a recipe that watches for that. So everyone who's doing Periscope broadcast and putting the hashtag in, it's telling me every time they go live. So it's pinging me a message to go, hey, here's some scopes you need to watch. Even if I don't catch them live, I can then reach out. So it allows for extra engagement there. So I'm going to jump from this tools thing. This wasn't one of my questions, but it's just come in over here on the side. I'm going to throw this one up in here. So seeing lots of people talking about community, but they rarely define what a community is. Is it just the folks that follow you? If you don't mind, I'm going to jump on this one first, because I always fire it to you to go first. So I'm going to jump in on this one as it wasn't my question. I feel like I can go first. So for me, obviously everyone has a different idea of what community is. And for me, the whole element of community, it's not about people you follow or that you're connected with. It's actually people that you bother to spend time engaging with. So I think you don't really have a community if there's not an level of engagement. So to build a good community, it's really, really key and important to have a good solid level of engagement. That doesn't mean you have to talk every day or you have to tweet to them backwards and forwards constantly. It could be that you check in with them once a month. It could be as simple as that. And that is a good level of community, is also knowing that if I really wanted to know how am I going to track a hashtag, I can shout Dawn and say, hey, Dawn, I need some help with this. I don't need to be able to talk to her every day. And like with our busy lives, actually, we probably talk once or twice between shows, other than passing like ships in the night on broadcasts and conversations online. But we know that when it comes to it, that person is there. So having a level of engagement and also a built relationship with those people. So people say, I've got a community of 400,000 people online. I don't consider that necessarily to be a community. Those people might be following you and hanging on your every word if you've got that side of it. But how much of an actual community do you consider it if it becomes broadcast and you're not then engaging necessarily as on the level that I would consider to be a good, strong community? I don't know. What's your thoughts, Dawn?
Yeah, I love how you put that. I think it really comes down to understanding the medium on which you've established that relationship, because again, you look at relationships along a continuum and you've got the kind of know, just familiar, yeah, I'll follow. So the follower is going to be on the less engaged end of the continuum, but you want to be moving people towards, greater levels of trust and intimacy along that continuum. So for instance, one of the ways to, I would define a community is, again, I think I mentioned it earlier, is that there's some sense of either mutuality or commitment. And when I say commitment, I don't mean something strange, but really somebody that has either added value, they've shown up to, for instance, I'm going to give you an example, say it's a Twitter chat, someone who's continually showing up to your Twitter chat and you're engaging, you see that they are contributing, you're helping them, they're helping you. To me, those relationships are what are the bud or the kernel of what starts to have a community. I think one of the other telling signs, they are, well, they may be discussing, good point. Interesting, as community is often used where they discuss your stuff or advocate. You may not need to engage with them, absolutely, but there may be a way to promote them. Or
for me, though, if you look back to what you've said there about it's where people go to discuss it, that's the engagement. They're engaging. So that whole community is particularly engaged. So they're going somewhere. So people have like a Facebook group. I know from a conversation I had with Dan Moore, he's so busy in he's a full-time job and he's traveled and he's scoping and he's flown around the world. Those people who are following Dan, he has a Dan's Peeps Facebook group. And that group is very highly engaged. Like they repost his stuff in there in case anyone else missed it. So that person doesn't necessarily need to be there for the community to be engaged, but the community itself is heavily engaged with each other. You can't just put 1,000 people in a group and call it a community. I could quite easily go and invite 1,000 people into a group. Doesn't make it a community. The engagement level is what makes it a community. Ooh.
And I think,
I glitched a bit.
Well, yeah, you're here. I think that he does bring Paul brings a good point, saying that, some YouTube stars don't comment on their own shows. Absolutely, because you think about YouTube, again, is not this many to one. I mean, it is a one to many platform, but it's not interactive in terms of, because you're creating video content, and YouTube is no different than a blog post, except it's video, because you've got your content out here. The person who produced the content is not interacting live with the people who are consuming that content. So in that sense, when you've got live streaming, you've got Periscope or Snapchat, you've got people that are actually interacting, or Blab for this, in this sense, you've got people that are actually asking their questions in real time. And, how many times have we either listened to a podcast or watched a YouTube video and thought, dang, I wish I could have asked this question, but there isn't that opportunity. It wasn't meant to do that. But these live streaming ones are. And so it is, it's a sense of using whichever platform you're in to the best of its ability, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I'm conscious on the time because we're both super busy today. So I'm going to ping up the fourth and last question of the official questions here. So there's a typo in it as well. How do you build a community quicker, and are there any shortcuts? I'm going to let you go first on this one, Dawn.
You're so killer. Oh my God. Thank you, Tristan. So I'd actually love to hear if anyone else has comments about your experiences with communities that, were there shortcuts? I can tell you one of the closest, the fastest ways to build that kind of cohesion and connection is put everybody together on the same task. I know that is something that is, solve a problem. I mean, I'm a big fan of watching Survivor. Yeah, I'm a geek. Yeah. But, you get a tribe working together, solving something together. That is definitely a way. And I think that dynamic, especially with, I had mentioned the community of fellow mentors and addressing fatherlessness, and that, that group, we're all on task together. And I think that has built a community a little quicker, because we are all marching toward the same end goal. We all want to see a certain outcome, and we're working together for that. So I would think that might be one little way. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to ping mine there, but I'm going to talk through it. So I was just saying that if you want to talk about shortcuts to building a big community, if you want to good a community, it comes down to the whole level of engagement, as I said before. So shortcuts, if you want to talk about shortcuts and ways to do it quicker, there are things like using tools to help you curate so that the time bringing the information together takes less time, like the usernames of everyone who's tweeted, or what the comments were, so you can go straight back to them. Things like the catch and full scope for me, where it puts them there, and I can go click, send, and write a message and send it. I don't have to go anywhere because it's put there, and that saves me a lot of time. So that makes for me a lot quicker, rather than having to go through a broadcast, find them, copy and paste it, go to Twitter and do it. Someone's put a tool there, so using a tool in order to curate it. However, the engagement side of it has to be a very real and authentic task. You have to engage with those people. There's nothing more annoying. And I've called a couple of people I know out on this, is receiving a direct message from someone who is like, I'm friends with them, I've connected with them on a new platform, and then got an auto message. And I'm like, and this comes down to what I say every time I'm talking to people about social media stuff, is time management. It's about managing your time better so that you invest your time where it's important, which is the engagement side of things. It's not always the content curation or that collecting the information from people, but when you're engaging back to them, make sure that it's authentic and real, and do it yourself. The way to fast track that is do it collectively with other people. After this show, we could reach out to everyone who's been on the show or seen it or commented or used the hashtag. I don't have to do it all. Dawn doesn't have to do it. We can do it together. It's half the workload. And so it gets done twice as quick, as long as you're very clear and on point, like Dawn was saying. Get a group of people on task doing those things, allocating those jobs to different people. It's exactly the same when we built a brand from nothing to 3 million people. There were 40 people involved in doing that, and they all played a part in it. Without any of them, that we wouldn't have achieved that target. But they were all very specifically on task doing certain jobs, and sometimes they were all doing exactly the same job. So, but sometimes they were doing different jobs in groups. And so to make a brand grow that quickly, it's very important to know what it is you're trying to achieve, what steps there are to get there, and then get the community to do the things that you need them to do to get there. I mean, talking about advocacy, people who are in a community, if someone like creates a community, the best communities are led and not owned. So someone who's in a community leading it forwards and being an advocate is amazing. Like it's the best kind of community that you can get involved in, is someone who's leading a community rather than standing at the top and, you know, saying, hey, this is still the stuff I need to do. Is, hey, let's do this. We'd love to know what you guys think about how we can do this. Reach out. We did this, and that's what we did with all of those 40 staff. Was every staff meeting, half an hour of meeting of us telling you what's going on and keeping you informed, and half an hour of, hey, there's 40 of you. We've got like 4 people in management who are making decisions and 4 brains. You've got 10 times as many brains as us. Tell us what you think, and using that. So using all the resources that you've got. And a lot of people feel that they have to do it all on their own, especially if they're an entrepreneur or, you know, someone working from home in a small business. There is a massive load of help out there if you bother to go and ask. And if you ask the right people, you'll get the help. It's absolutely key with that. Talking about what you're talking about, Darren Rouse on the side over here, pro blogger, where he throws out challenges and gets people to post their results there. The thing with that is he's creating an engagement level. He's giving you a place to go to put your comments in. And also the engagement isn't just the fact that they're coming back and putting the comments and seeing it, and engaging with each other's comments, is the fact that you can go and see, I tried this and didn't work. And you find that someone else has said the same. Now there's a reason for you people to talk to each other, because you have those there's a commonality between the experiences that you've had. And so that's really important for that engagement level, because now if I had no reason to talk to Dawn and suddenly we both had the same problem, we instantly have a reason to talk. And so that's a really good way to do it. So that engagement in the community.
Yeah, I think that idea too of, if you can, one of the telltale signs is listen to the language that the members use to talk about that community. Is it, this is so-and-so's community, or this is ours? So when you hear that kind of ownership language, like this is ours, there's a mental and an emotional commitment to that group. Like I think Blab did a fabulous job of, just releasing the platform to people, and we are the Blab community. And so even things that there are, gestures of, we're going to do a best of Blab, or, letting people take those risks and take that ownership, because again, you don't want to squelch that, because that doesn't mean that everything has to run rampant and be chaotic, but it's a good characteristic that there are people that don't have that and can't figure it out. So if you get that little spark, you don't want to squish that sucker out.
Yeah. And this is a really good example around the community thing. Is I took to Periscope earlier on, and this shows kind of the level of community. And I went to Periscope specifically to talk about the Snapchat and Periscope training course that we've just put out. And while I was on Periscope, I was announcing that it was a Sydney-based thing and that it would be online and it would be available for everyone, because obviously there's international audience and things that can watch you on Periscope. And there's people there that want it. And I had someone in the broadcast ask me, is it possible you could come and do it in Perth? Sure. We're more than happy to come to Perth if there's a strong enough community and a group of people there that want to learn it, that want that course. So now in their community, they'll go back and find out if they can find enough people to get us over there to teach, because they know that they will learn better in person than they would learn online. And therefore they're now going out of their way to do that. And at the same time, someone else pinged in saying, hey, what about Melbourne? And it's like, you could get from Melbourne to Sydney for, $80 return if you get good flights. However, if you've got a community there, it's better for us to come to that community because you've already got that established community, and it's a level of trust as well. So there's people who have already been on, they've signed up, and they're interested in having that training specific for their community. They've already built a community rather than them coming away and doing one thing and the community missing out because they didn't bring it back to them. And so that's it again, meeting people where they are and going through the meeting around that digital water cooler, wherever that is, whether it's their Facebook, whether it's that, or even real life, that whole let's get together and let's go. Like I said, the reason we're doing the Sydney one at lunchtime is because we wanted the environment to be right, and we wanted people to be on that level where it is a community thing. It's sit down with the whole break bread thing, sit down, eat, and it's a level of community. You know, you look at for example, European families that as they grow older, they're a very close-knit family. Even when they get, 3-4 generations, they're all still very close because they always sit down and they always have dinner. And it's not, you don't go down the route of a TV dinner, or you don't go out for that. It's even if it's only once a week, there's always that sit-down meal where that is the hub of everything within the family. And so that's what we wanted to do with the training as well, is get everyone together, a sense of community, a lot of networking, and then learning. Because once you're in that comfortable environment, you actually learn a lot better in an environment that you're really comfortable in. And so that's kind of where we went with that. So
I love it. And now I wish that Australia wasn't so far from California, because that just sounds like a great experience, and it's really providing a value. I think a lot of times as trainers or coaches, we're giving information, and it's not just about information. It's not content only, it's experience, so if that experience can involve, making new friends, laughing over inside jokes, sharing a beer, whatever it is, I mean, those are value. I call them investments, investments into the community. And again, it's not bribery, it's creating the space for those types of exchanges to happen.
Yeah. And I think that's great. I'm conscious that we're on the time and we're about 45 minutes, which is spot on as well. And I know that Matt just jumped in, and Matt is keen to talk to me, because that phone call, if you heard it in the middle, was actually Matt trying to ring me. So talking about community, we're actually just looking at building a whole community in Australia specifically around backpacking.
Love it.
So that's a really cool new project that's coming out soon, and there'll be some information about that when it's available. I know Matt's super stoked about it, and we've actually got someone else that we're talking to who's very heavily invested in that community already. So bring in, like I said, all the different people have got different skills that complement each other. So Matt does a podcast. I obviously do brand building and website stuff online. And then there's someone else who's bringing in a whole new element as well that we can't say too much about. But we're building off each other's skills that all complement each other. So that's a super exciting project.
Love it.
Based around communities. So
love it.
Really enjoyed today. Really good show. Really some good content, some great questions. Really appreciate the people who have turned up here, who are giving the content from the sidelines, asking the right questions and things. Thanks a lot for contributing, and for everyone who's been here live on the thing, and everybody who's watching this, whether it's on YouTube or on a blog. Thanks a lot for spending the time with us and listening to us. If you've got any feedback and you want to get involved, or you want to suggest a topic for one of the shows, please use the hashtag ATN Talk over on Twitter. And Dawn and myself will be watching that hashtag and watching for any conversation around that, so that we can engage with you, and we can bring you into the community, and you can be part of the conversation, and you can jump in and join us for a future broadcast. So thanks a lot again, guys. Thank you, Dawn, very much for your valuable content. And we will catch you at the same time, which on Sydney time is at 12:30, just after noon on a Tuesday. So do the maths for where you are in the world. There's a brilliant tool for that called timeanddate.com, which if you punch in 12:30 Sydney time, it will tell you all the other times for you. So that's a really useful tool for you, especially when you're working with an international community, and you can schedule, you can save your location, so it will show you your time against the relevant time there. So thanks a lot, guys. We will be tweeting out as soon as we schedule the next one. We'll tweet that out for you guys to do that. And we really appreciate your time of joining us here for the broadcast. And we'll catch you for the next ATN Talk, same time next week.
Thank you.